What's going on, pursuers? Welcome to The Pursuit of Calling, the podcast that provides you with the strategies and tools needed to successfully discover and pursue your calling. Whether it's through inspiring stories, thought-provoking interviews, or quick, insightful episodes on personal growth and development, we've got you covered. I'm your host, Thomas Carney. Enjoy the episode. All right, so in this episode, pursuers, I'm going to be diving into some health updates, a little bit of updates for my coaching, and then some good lessons I've been learning recently. So let me start with a bit of a personal update. Some things I've been walking through recently, especially around my health. So I found out, you might know that I've been struggling with a condition called muscular dystonia, and struggling less and less every day. Doesn't mean the pain goes down, but it means my mental fortitude is getting better. And I found out recently that the pain in my legs wasn't actually muscular dystonia. The issues I've been having with the muscles in my legs hasn't been because of muscular dystonia, which is what I have in my upper body, mainly in my right arm and on the right side, which causes like muscular contractions. And for me, for some reason, a bunch of pain, even though my neurologist says dystonia isn't necessarily a painful condition, which I'm not really sure what that means yet. Really, though, in my legs, what it is it's stressed out muscles, essentially. I have shin splints, and my calves and my quads are all like stressed out too, and they've been like that for almost a year. And thinking it was dystonia, I wasn't really trying to do anything that was going to heal it, because dystonia in and of itself isn't something that can be healed by conventional means, at least. So I was skeptical at first whenever I first heard this, because again, like I said, I believed it was dystonia for over a year, believed it was permanent. And so my neurologist asked me to go to a musculoskeletal doctor. And when they confirmed it, when Jessica, my musculoskeletal doctor, confirmed the diagnosis of it not being dystonia and then telling me what it was, I was so relieved. You might think it's weird to be relieved from that you have a weird condition, but I already knew I had a weird condition. I already knew my legs were in pain. It had been like that for a year. And the reason I felt relieved is because it can be fixed. And I start physical therapy on April 29th. And that's a win. That's a blessing in my book. And so I'm hopeful, because I want to run again. I want to hit the bike trails again. And I want my legs to be out of pain, man. I've already started doing research and doing stretches and figuring out what I can be doing to help myself, help my body out of this circumstance. But the biggest takeaway I've gotten out of this realization, I guess, or whatever you would call it, I've come into recently, is that my calling, this is Pursuit of Calling podcast, so if you didn't know, my calling is not tied to my circumstances. A calling is permanent, circumstances are not. So I want to ask you, have you ever believed something about your life, your situation was permanent, only to find out there was something better in store? For me, like I said, I believe my legs were in a permanent condition. I believe my legs were going to be in pain for the rest of my life. And I came to terms with that. I was like, that's fine. I will deal. I will manage. And finding out that there was something better in store, that I actually have splints and other muscular issues instead of being neurological with muscular, that's way better and is a blessing. So has something like that ever happened to you where you thought there was something permanent in your life, but it turns out there was something better in store? So on the other side of that, one thing that that's been really keeping me encouraged lately is my coaching, is the coaching and the coaching process. So I keep getting reaffirmed in my calling as a coach. So I say that my calling and the purpose of this podcast is to provide the listeners, you and everyone in my life, with the tools needed to successfully discover and pursue their calling. And I say everyone, but it's really not everyone, I guess, is it? It's only those I've been called to serve. I can't provide everybody with the tools because, one, not everybody's going to accept the tools. Or some people will put them down. But it's up to me to find out what the tools are, and then find the people who are going to pick who I can then provide those tools to. Recently, I started. One of the ways this has been reaffirmed is recently I've started. I recently started coaching my friend Paul, who I met at the International Maxwell Conference. So we've started. We started kind of swapping services, I guess you could say. So one week I'll coach him, the next week he'll coach me. And the first time I coached him, he got some good stuff out of it. And the way I know that is, one, he told me, and two, at the start of the next session, he wants to write a book. And at the start of the next session, he told me that the next day after our first session, after I told him to write down his action steps, he ended up writing for 3 hours the next morning. He ended up being promoted into action, pushed into action as a result of the coaching that I was able to provide him. It reminded me that good questions can unlock progress. So, what's something you're doing right now that affirms your purpose? Are you doing something right now that affirms your purpose? Maybe you can even think about something. What's something you're doing right now, I'm going to say it again, that affirms your purpose? You might think nothing right now. Maybe, again, you're in a position that you don't know what your purpose or your calling is. So ask the question, you can ask the purpose question of how you want people's lives to improve having crossed paths with you. And then come back to that question, what's something you're doing right now that affirms that purpose, that affirms that calling? So, but coaching doesn't always happen like that. Coaching isn't always easy. It's something I'm learning after now having done it for about, I think I've done 8 hours worth of coaching so far, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's been over a span of multiple weeks, and for 30 minutes a session, it's like I've been learning a lot. So my coach, I said it isn't always easy. And I also have been learning that it's a stretching process. There's a lot of growth that is happening, not just for the clients, but also for myself. Coaching, it's fun and meaningful, like I said, but it's also challenging. The hardest part, I said earlier that I'm learning that asking questions can promote action, but the hardest part of coaching is actually asking the right questions. I'm learning to be okay with pausing to think. I think sometimes, I know sometimes during sessions, I think one thing that I'm struggling with right now is learning to pause and reflect on what the client had just said, so that I can kind of formulate, I guess you'd say, a genuine question that's going to promote them into action eventually, or a question that's going to promote growth a question that's meaningful. When I say quote unquote the right question, I want to be asking questions that are meaningful to them, that are, like I said, are going to promote growth, or are going to promote action. So one of the best questions I've asked recently is, what could you be doing in the meantime to set yourself up for success? What could you be doing in the meantime to set yourself up for success? Now, there's some context that you're missing there, so let me fill you in. So over this time of having muscular dystonia, I've been given advice on how to prepare for doctor's appointments. And I've gone into some doctor's appointments just like unprepared, just going in and them asking me if I have any questions. I say no, because I don't. And they ask me what's been going on. I explain it to them the best I can, and I leave. And sometimes I would get good information, sometimes I wouldn't. And some advice I was given was to go in prepared. Go in with a list of questions that you're not leaving without getting answered. And I have also added and tacked onto that, I prepare those questions, but then I also prepare my explanations of what's been happening with my condition. So then I can already think about how I'm going to explain it to them whenever they ask me, because I know they will. So that's how I'm trying to maximize my time with these doctors, because honestly, you don't get a lot of time with them a lot of the time. And I want to ask you then, what's something you can do this week to better prepare for your next big moment? What's some questions you could be asking your boss, your mentors, or even God? What are some questions that you can be asking before the next time you go to your boss, the next time you sit down with your mentor? How can you be preparing and setting yourself up for success in these moments? Many of us wait until the event starts, but preparation is powerful. Preparation is powerful. Is that what you would call an alliteration? Oh, sorry, I left my heater on in the background. That's all right. So, as I wrap up this episode, I just want to leave you with, recap these main ideas. That your circumstances change, but your calling will not. Your calling is consistent. Circumstances change. And then my coaching continues to affirm my purpose. And that it's not just there to affirm my purpose, it's there to affirm my clients' purposes as well. And then I want you to think about those questions that I was asking. I want you to go back and listen and write down those questions, and write down the questions I asked and your answers to those questions. The final one being, what questions should you be asking your boss, your mentor, or God? Another one that I really think that you should be asking yourself, what's something you're doing right now that affirms your purpose? And then what's one way you can prepare for something coming up in your life this week? What's one way you can prepare for something coming up in your life this week? I want you to answer that question. It's Tuesday today, leading into the rest of the week. What can you be doing to prepare yourself for success? I just repeated myself like 10 times, but it's important. All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Pursuit of Calling. Guys, I hope you share this out with everyone. Share this out on every social media platform. Share this episode. Share the link. Don't forget to share the link with somebody that is in their transition period in their lives, that is pursuing their purpose, pursuing their calling, and that you believe that this episode would truly benefit. All right, guys. See you in the next episode. Continue to pursue your calling well.